Be thou my vision, O Lord of my heart. Be all else but Lord to me, save that thou art. Be thou my best thought in the day and the night, both waking and sleeping, thy presence my life.
How I became a Catholic.
Yeah.
I was christened with my own family as an Anglican and a Protestant, and actually we was a bit anti-Catholic. The family was, as much as we was brought up that way, that you know, you thought Catholics was odd bodies and that you you never bothered with them and you kept staying clear of them. Anyway, eventually when I was 14 and I left school, I went to work in a jam factory in Wambo Lane, Gettiker. Now, how we come to live in Gettiker was that my dad was a farm labourer and he worked on the farms in Hale Wood. And but in 1932, at the age of 47, he died with the effects from the First World War. And 6 weeks after he died, the farmer came and said to my mum, "Sorry, Mrs. Seed, you've got to get out of the house because we want you for the next teamsman." That's the man with the horses that used to do the ploughing and all the farm work. So she then eventually found a house in Rambo Lane, Gettiker, and that house belonged to Belvale Orchards, the jam factory, which also was belonged by Irwin's. And I went to the local school, and what's happened in 1939, war was declared, and we only went to school for 2 hours a day, and my school for the 2 hours a day was on the railway station in the ladies' waiting room of Gettiker Station. And you used to go there, our time was from 2 o'clock till 4, and we were supposed to get the lessons and the homework to do at home. But I didn't do much homework. I spent most of my time in the gardens of the big house that was in Rambo Lane that belonged to Cuffs. And so, but consequently, 1942, I was 14 and I had to leave school, and the manager of the jam factory said to my mum that there'd be a job there for me if and when I was ready, if I was interested. So anyway, I went to work in the jam factory as the can lad, doing all the odd jobs and all that. And I eventually was made foreman at the jam factory. But there was 2 lads started. One was called Mike Davis and one was called Kevin Seed. And we had a dye-gel department which was a great big mixing thing, a huge mixer that you threw 20 bags of sugar in, or 20 bags of something in, and also the gelatin in it, just churned around and mixed it all together again. And they came to me this day and they said, look, you better get up to the dye-gel department quick, because Mike Davis has fell in the mixer. And went up there, and the police was involved, the fire engines was involved, and they got him out, but he was dead. And they had to have an inquest, and I was called because I was the foreman by that time, I was production manager, and it was my responsibility, you know. But nobody told me or would tell me what happened. His girlfriend that they was going out with was on the floor with the packing, doing the packing stages, Hazel, and no one would tell me what happened. But evidently, the lid of the mixer, he used to stand on that, singing and dancing, acting the goat, and no one stopped it. And this day he was singing and dancing on top of the mixer, and stood on the grid where you put all the ingredients in, and went in with it. And that was that one. Yeah. Laura came to work at the factory too, and we started going out, and then we talked about marriage and things like that, and I had to go and see Nora's father, and he said it would be all right by him, but you know what it entails was that Nora was a Catholic, and I had to go and sort the church out. So I went down to the little prefab church on a valley road one night and knocked on the door, and the man answered the door, who eventually found to be Father Hickson. And he said, "Can you help me?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I want to get married, but no way do I want to become a Catholic. It was just, how do I go about it?" So he said, "Well, come on, let's talk about it," you see. And so we started talking about it and things like that, and we eventually got married in the Catholic Church. It was only a small do and all that. But the instructions went on, and it took 5 years actually. And 5 years before I did become a Catholic. And one of the major things about this was that I kept saying to Father that part of my instruction in by Father was how to brew beer and how to have a still, and and we were up to all sorts of antics like this. And there was one occasion which I really put down to a gift from God, because I went down this Friday night and I said to Father, he was in high spirits this night, and I said, "What's the matter?" So he said, the piece of land opposite the prefab church on the Chill Valley was being sold for £3,000, and he had the offer to buy it, but he had no money, and I knew for a fact he had no money, because the parish barely covered expenses, because they were all living in prefabs, and they was all working class or on the dole or things like that. So he said, we'll get the money somewhere, but the Holy Spirit will speak to us, and Our Lady will speak to us. And I went down again later on, and he said, "You know what?" he said, "Archbishop Downey has died." And I said, "Oh," and he said, "But his housekeeper Gladys has got to get out of the house, but she's got nowhere to go." So he said, "I've taken her on as my housekeeper." So I said, "Oh, that's interesting." And he said, the other thing was, she said to me, "What would you like, Father, for a meal?" So he said, "I'd love a bowl of curry." He said, "I used to get curry in the army." He said, "But I've never had curry since I came out of the army," because he was an army chaplain, and he served in Burma for a time in India. And he said to me, "And sent me goodness, today," he said, "she's given me curry twice." And he said, "What's the significance about this? That there's the autumn doubles coming up." Actually, it's the Cambridge and the Sassuage, the two autumn races that we should call the autumn double. And he said, "There's a horse in there called Curry going." And he said, "That's a real omen, that is, Jim." He said, "And you can't miss that one out at all." So, and he said, "You've got to pick the other horse out to go with it." Now, I didn't back horses, and I didn't know anything about horses at all like that. So he gave me the Echo to read, with all the horses' names down. He said, "Read down the names," he said, "and something will jump out at you." So I read all the things, and I said, I can't think about it at all. And with that, I threw the Echo on the couch. I said, "Well, I'll leave it to it now." And as the Echo ran on the couch, the headlines was there. It was retrial for Kelly, the Cameo murder. A fellow called Kelly had committed a murder in the Cameo in Smithdown Road, and his first trial was something had gone wrong, and he had to have a retrial. And the headlines on the Echo was retrial for Kelly for the Cameo murder. And I said, "That's my horse." He said, "What's that?" I said, "Retrial." He said, "So."
Yeah, go on.
He said, "You've got to open an account in Vernon's, an account in Littlewoods." And he said, "I'll give you some money to put on." And he said, "You must put some money on it as well." So I put something on, whatever I put on I don't know, but I won £250, and he won his £3,000 and bought the land for the church to be built. And that land for the church was all bought by Father Hickson, and that's how they come to get that. Yeah. So, but Father Hickson was a great character, because he took me to Cistercian monastery, and we went to Loch Derg together. Now, I didn't realise what Loch Derg was about, but and Loch Derg is, you spend 3 days on Loch Derg, and you rowed over there on a boat, and when you get off the boat, they take your shoes off you, and you walk around in your bare feet, and you do the stations. Now the stations are, the island is where St Patrick had his little community, and the huts have all fell down now, and the stones are all rough and ready. So you've got to circle these stones, and then circle the island itself, and you've got to say the various prayers is prescribed to say. And then on the second night, on the first night, you've got to stay up all night, and in the church. And the priest is up in his pulpit, and he's looking down and preaching to you all night, and he'll say, "That fellow over there's got to sleep, wake him up." and then and then the next morning you're given a round of toast with Loch Derg tea, which is boiled water with pepper in, and that was for 3 days. That, but it was quite an experience. But I'm still here. It was good. Father Hickson was good. That. The priest that I was talking to, saying about Father Hickson, who was the parish priest of Our Lady's and St Jeremy Gerrard's in Scotland Road. That is Father Hickson, Father George Hickson. Yeah. He's got a lot to answer for. I took a month off, and we organised it to go to Kenya, and we spent the first 3 weeks going around Kenya with Liz to all the sites and all that. And in the meantime, I took with me a carrier bag full of sweets and swizzles, and I said to Liz, "I want to give the kids these." So she said, "Well, therefore you can't give them here," she said, "because if you give those kids the sweets outside the door," he said, "they'll be waiting outside and we'll never get out." So she said, "But I'll take you to somewhere." So I said, "Where's that?" She said, "Makuru." So I said, "Oh, okay." So in the afternoon of that particular day, we went to Makuru, and it was an orphanage and school as well. And they had this bag of sweets, and they said, "Go into that office there, that is where Sister Mary is." And when they went into the office, there was Sister Mary at the desk with her head in her hands like this, in deep in thought. And I dumped the bag of sweets on the desk, and she said, "What's that?" I said, "It's a bag of sweets for the children." She said, "You know what?" she said, "My prayers have been answered." Because she said, "I've got 50 children being confirmed today and making their first communion." And she said, "When they do that, I normally give them a little gift." But she said, "I've got nothing to give them." So she said, "You come with me now." So we went into this hall, and it was a big hut actually, and all the kids was there, and she lined them all up and she said, "This is Mr. Seed and Mr. Donovan, and they've come from England and Ireland, and they've got something for you." So we had to give a packet of sweets to all the kids who've been in the first communion. I said, "Oh," so with that, when we came back home, I started thinking about this, and then I thought we said, "Well, we'll see what we can do." So we started the Makuro Project Liverpool, and it was just me at the beginning, and we got talked to people and things like that, and they said, "Yes, we'll support you," and they gave us money. And then I realised that it was only a one-man band and it was no good, so we wanted to expand and make it into a charity. So I asked Kathy Brown and Tilly and Colette. Who else was there? That's it. And we formed ourselves into a charity, and we took it on more of a... We aim to make £10,000 each year for 90 to 100 children to be further educated. And that's what, up to from 1997 till now, we've raised over £100,000, more than that. And we must have done dozens and dozens of children who have had an education that they wouldn't have had otherwise. And Colette and myself, one of the visit we made was that Sister Barbara used to go and visit the ladies' prison in Nairobi, and these girls and women was just locked up for the least excuse, and there was a shortage of soap, and when we went over there we took tablets of soap with us, and we made a visit with Colette come with me, and we stayed in Nairobi, and the sisters looked after us, and Colette was able to go with Sister Barbara to the ladies' prison and give the tablets of soap out and sanitary towels and things like that, which the women had no access to at all. And that was your trip to the prison. I wasn't allowed in the ladies' prison. No. So, then that was the first time I went on my own. Yeah. And then I went with you. You came with me the second time. Yeah. And then you've been a couple of times since. That's right. And I've been. Yeah. Oh, Sister Mary and Sister Barbara took us on a safari to see the animals and all that and it was absolutely fantastic, that, because we wouldn't have known anything about that, but they knew how to do it and that.
Lake Navasha.
Lake Navasha, and then when we came back, we was put more onto a more stable footing by first of all Donald Pearce came on board, but he didn't last long. Then Elvid stayed looking after the accounts for us. Elvid decided that there was some doubt about him being able to carry on, but we got a lady called Brenda Williams from Christ the King, and she came on board and took over looking after the money, which was a great help and is a great help, yes. And then Father Bill, who was lukewarm towards Makuru, he was interested, but it was more of a social business with him and that. But Father Bill was moved on, and Father Philip came, and he was really supportive of Makuru, and started one day a year, which is the Makuru Project year, and all the money that's collected on that weekend goes to Makuru, and is a great help to us. Now Father Philip has moved on as well now, but we're always grateful for him because he did support us in many ways. And I got a letter off him, what's his name, and he said he was sure in his own mind that Makuru was solidly based in the parish now, and there wouldn't be any fear. It would go on, and they would support us still.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
What do you say your family thought about you doing it?
I don't think they was all that fussed about it. I didn't involve them in all that much. Pauline and Tony and Kevin and Helen, they have subscribed to it, and what's the name, but they won't get involved. I asked them to consider joining on the trustees and that, but it's not their scene, and I'm not hopeful that they join it or not. That is the biggest worry, is how that it carries on even after I go, and it looks like it does. We've got Colette and we've got Tilly, and although Tilly's getting on a bit, we've got Kathy and Brenda, and it's a good team, and with the backing from the priest and the parish, it is pretty sound. I haven't met Father Stephen yet. Have you met him? No. So I just hope he's as interested in Makuru as what Father Philip was. Yeah.
So you've put so much energy into it, haven't you, Jim?
Well,
been almost
it is
a life's work in a way.
Well, yeah, I did. I felt the need was there, and you just get swallowed up in it as well. The enthusiasm of people when you talk to them about the children and the sorry state that they're in, especially when you go into the slums. In Nairobi they've got slums there, 600,000 people living in absolute squalor and in tin huts and things like that, and the kids are wandering around and begging on the streets. And it's Sister Mary who started the schools. When she first started the school, it was just one school, and when we got there eventually, there were 6 schools with 1,000 kids in each. And the children come to school, they walk to school, most likely they walk an hour before they get to school in the morning. And then when they get to school, they're given a bowl of gruel, and it's like a porridge. And then they do their lessons, and at lunchtime, they only work half a day in school, and at lunchtime, they're given another bowl of meal, and they go off home, and 10 to 1 they won't have anything to eat until they get the next meal from school again. And to see the faces so grateful and so happy to see you, and that you've taken an interest in them. So Sisters puts on a little show with the kids, and they have a scout troop as well, and I had to do a walk about it with in the scouts, and they were on parade, and there was it was good.
Be thou my vision, O Lord of my heart. Be all else but Lord to me, save that thou art. Be thou my best thought in the day and the night, both waking and sleeping, thy presence my light. Be thou my wisdom, be thou my true word, be thou ever with me, and I with thee, Lord. Be thou my great Father, and I thy true Son. Be thou in me dwelling, and I with thee one. Riches I heed not, no man's empty praise. Be thou mine inheritance now and always. Be thou only the first in my heart. O sovereign of heaven, my treasure thou art. High King of heaven, thou heaven's bright sun, oh grant me its joys after